Hi guys, so I'm back again today with another video. I am so excited because we're in the midst of the Christmas season. For all of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. And for those of you who don't, happy holidays. The new year is upon us and I thought that this would be the perfect time for me to bring you another video. If you've watched my things to consider before moving to Lagos video and you've checked out the apartment hunting in Nigeria video and you've decided that you're gonna take the leap and you're actually gotten a place, then you need to stay tuned and watch this video to figure out what you should think about when you're moving into a new rental. All right, so the first thing I think that you should think about is having a mindset of being a problem solver. And it's annoying as a renter that you have to constantly think about this, but you're basically a homeowner. Once you've paid your rent, your landlord 90 to 95% of the time is going to be hands off. The only time the landlord might come in, and I say might, is like if there is a structural issue. Let's say something is wrong with a roof, or like there's a wall that's just, kind of wonky or something. Your landlord might be more hands-on and be more willing to fix it, as opposed to painting your house, or like there's something wrong with your yard, like in terms of gardening or something. That's all on you. So you're just really gonna have to have the mindset of a homeowner and just fixing a lot of problems yourself, which is kind of different from if you've rented an apartment in the US or the UK. For example, with my husband and I, there was an issue with our wall. There was like a crack in the wall. Even though we moved into a brand new apartment, I guess whoever constructed the apartment, like, I don't know what they did between like the kitchen door and the wall. There was just like this cracked area. So we had a conversation with our landlord and we told him, like, this needs to be fixed. It doesn't look right. And he was more than willing to fix it. We just got someone to come and fix it and he reimbursed us the money for it. However, it just depends on your landlord, how willing they will be to fix the issue or pay you back for fixing the issue, and the will be. So I think before you make any major structural changes to your home, have a conversation with your landlord, because if they're not willing to fix it, then you need to weigh how important the repair is or the fix is, as opposed to how much you're willing to spend on a home that isn't yours. And I think that is that's something that renters in Nigeria weigh a lot. That's why I feel like a lot of times you might see janky looking apartments on the outside, because people are like, well, this isn't my home. Why would I fix someplace that I don't own, and all of that. Another thing that you really need to think about when you're getting an apartment in Lagos is also that you need to have a fully stocked address book of tradesmen. Now, how you find those tradesmen is up to you, but I'll give you a few ways that people find tradesmen. The first, and I think usually the best way, is to get a personal reference, either from a friend or from a family member of someone that they currently use and they highly recommend. And that way you can pass through all the trial and error that they had, and you have someone who is usually skilled at doing what they do. Another way that you can get a tradesperson is, let's say you live in a newer building or a new estate, and there are people who are still around who have built up your home. A lot of times they either can do repairs for you, or they know people who are in your area who can do repairs as well. So those are the two most common ways. And I mean, the last way is just picking up some dude on the street, which anything can happen at that point, but I wouldn't recommend it. So most of the people that work for us, we found the first two ways. Because we live in a new state, a lot of tradesmen are in our estate, and a lot of our neighbors have used them, and that's how we've gotten them, or friends and family have recommended people. Now, in terms of tradesmen, there are going to be tradesmen that you use on a very regular basis, and then there are going to be tradesmen / staff that are optional, but sometimes are nice to have. Now, the people that you need on a very regular basis, especially if you don't live in a fully serviced apartment, is first of all a generator repairman, because if your generator has any issues, you definitely want someone who is skilled at fixing a generator. You don't want just somebody who's like, oh, I can tinkle around with generators, I can fix it, because that person will ruin your generator and ruin your life. I mean, maybe not ruin your life, but like if you don't live in an area that has a steady supply of electricity, things can go horribly wrong very quickly. So it's definitely someone that you would probably need to consider having, and making sure that, not even consider, you need to have that person on your phone, maybe on speed dial, all of that stuff. In addition to that, if you have an inverter repair person, or a place where you go to get new inverter batteries if you need inverter batteries. In addition to that, you'll definitely need an electrician, because the electrician is the person who's going to install your air conditioners. They can help you if a fuse blows in your house, or if there are any sort of like little electrical problems that you don't know. I don't know. There's always something that could possibly happen, especially when the electricity, the current or the voltage in your house might be too high. Things can blow, issues can pop up all the time. So you definitely need an electrician. And then a plumber, because, if there's an issue with your bathroom, I don't know most people who can fix a shower. I don't know most people who can by themselves tinkle with a toilet and fix it. So I prefer to just have like someone who can fix the toilet. And then the last person I would say is a carpenter. Like if you're getting new furniture, like you can either go to a furniture store or you can go to a carpenter. And you got to pick a really good carpenter. But there are some really well-trained, really skilled carpenters who are great at building furniture, like couches, TV stands, beds, all of that stuff. And they are available and ready. You just have to be able to weigh that some carpenters are not as reliable as others. So if your heart can't deal with it, or if you need furniture really quickly, I would just recommend that you go to a furniture supply company or furniture company as opposed to getting a carpenter. Now there's some people who, people who are working in your house, that this might be a bit of a luxury, or for some who just know that, this is what I need to have. It's a necessity for some. The first I'll say is a cleaner, because I know for us, I just prefer to have someone who can come in and help clean up our place. Like I have other things to do, especially like when you have a busy work week. You can't kill yourself, like especially on a weekend. Who wants to come home and then have to clean the whole house by themselves? In addition to that, if you have children, and now this one I would say is more of a necessity than a cleaner, is definitely having a nanny and having someone who is there who can help you take care of your kids while you're at work or after school or before school, if you're you have to commute to get to work. So these are the types of people that you need to have in your address book, and make sure that they are available and ready to be there if you need them to be there. Now, another thing I would say, like when you're moving into an apartment is, and you're living in an apartment, is you need to try and build a relationship with your neighbors. You need to try. I'm not telling you to be best friends with your neighbors, but I would say it's highly beneficial to have a relationship with your neighbors, or at least a good rapport with your neighbors. Because let's say you work all day and you have a neighbor who's home all day, and anything could happen around your house. That person, if you've built up a good relationship with them and they see like there's some ish going down in your house, they can call you and let you know, or at least like give you a heads up like when you get home. Or if there's an issue in your area and they're more hip to the game, or they have their ear to the streets more than you do, they can help give you a heads up. Or let's say there's an emergency. Like recently, over the summer. My sister stayed at my parents' house over the summer, and she was asleep in her bedroom. Her AC was on, and I guess there was a current surge, and something sparked in her AC, and her bedroom caught on fire. And if it wasn't for our neighbors who noticed the fire, God knows what would have happened to her in the house. I mean, her whole room burnt down. But thankfully, to the heroism of my parents' neighbors, they were able to help put out the fire, because emergency services doesn't come quickly in Lagos. It's not like 911 where you call them and 5 minutes later they're at your door. There's a firefighter there. So because of them, they put out the fire. They got buckets of Omo, dousing it on the fire to make it go away. They saved her life, essentially. So it's always good to try and build up a good rapport with your neighbors. And then I would say another thing to consider is having an emergency fund, because emergencies always pop up. Something could happen. I've had friends who've had flooding in their apartments, or let's say during rainy season, water can actually come into your home and craziness could happen, or just anything could happen. And because most times your landlord is not the person who's going to fix it and you have to fix it, it's always good to have like a fund of money set aside for those things. And so there are tons of savings accounts that you can have in numerous amounts of banks. I can't give you a name of any right now, but you can use that as your emergency savings fund. And even put it in a high interest, savings fund if you need to. And what I would recommend is having a 3 to 5 month emergency fund set up, just in case anything happens. If any of you are aware of renter's insurance, please let me know, because I feel like renter's insurance would just be perfect at this point. But yeah, have an emergency fund set up so you can take care of that. And finally, what I would say is put money aside every month for rent. I know that you've paid this lump sum of money and you're about to move into your apartment. And rent in Nigeria is not cheap. It's close to, or even the same as what you pay in New York or in Washington, D.C., but you're paying it a year or 2 years in advance, and that's a lot of money to put down. So it's always best to save your rent month by month rather than scrambling at the end of the year to figure out how you're going to pay the rent. And I mean, who wants to borrow money to pay for your rent? Come on now. So even if it's just a little bit of money you can put aside, and maybe you might have to modify how you live a little bit, but living on a budget is not a bad thing. So just put that aside to pay for your home. But those are my tips or things to consider when you're moving into a new place. And if you have any questions, let me know down below. I can do another video if you'd like. And I'd love to hear from you about things that you were surprised about. What took you by surprise? What are the things that you're facing right now? Please share with the rest of us so we can all learn together. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!